Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Concert. Okay, no problem. Okay, we are among familiar people. Some less familiar, some more familiar, but still familiar. Okay, no worries. Okay, while the rest trickle in, we'll start the session so that by 2 o'clock latest, 3 o'clock latest, we'll be back at the main lecture theatre for the rest of the session. Okay, I'm Syed. I'm from OBS, and with me we have Slamat from RP. Fun fact, long ago, when I started my OAE journey professionally, Slamat was my team manager in OBS. Oh, yeah, so we are all familiar, okay? Good. So he's still assessing me now, that's why I'm doing this. 20 years later. Yeah. Okay, so these are the 3 topics we're going to talk about today. All right. These are the subcommittee members who were involved throughout the process in coming up with this portion of the standards. As mentioned earlier in the previous session, right? This just to amplify that cross we call it dynamic nature of the group, because there's enough representation from the educational side, from the private practitioners, as well as the agencies. All right? Okay. Okay, just for reminder again, okay, I refrain from taking any pictures or whatsoever. All right? Okay, we can move on. Okay, this is the main agenda for today. A quick check-in after this. Thereafter, we focus on B, C, and D. Essentially, we will give you some snapshots of the standards. Then in part B is a quick fire, maybe about 4 of different scenarios. Then we have a general gauge. What is the, I wouldn't want to use the word compliance, because compliance sounds like it's a regulation, but how far you already are intuitively, right, in your own processes, already following the standards at this moment. That's for B. Then after that, on C, we will talk about one specific scenario, how you're going to implement that component of the standards into your daily operations. We can discuss a bit. And then D, we talk about documentation and evidence on how you are carrying things out in your section. In your organization. Then the last part, we talk about any clarifications or questions. Yeah. Okay, so this is the first part. You can get yourself into groups of 3 or 4. This is not the perfect environment for this kind of group chats, but doesn't matter. Keep yourself free and easy. Just turn around. Who is nearby you? Have a quick self-introduction. Then after that, just have a quick reflection on this morning session. What is your our general approach of our industry, and what is your thoughts towards that? How are you feeling? All right? And reflections, of course. Okay, just have a quick 1-minute chat. Okay, I love the volume of chatter. Continue. I hope you're also talking about the question, yeah? The general approach of our industry, what is your thoughts and reflection about it? And once the first few thoughts come to your mind, that's when you pick up your handphones, then log in this Kahoot, and we do a word cloud to see the general feelings of everyone. Yep, so you can scan and you can key in your thoughts and reflection. Well done, Joe. We have 2 people who have logged in at the moment. Just key in your thoughts and reflection on whatever you heard this morning. Wow, Xian Long is also today. Well done. Oh, this one long, not long. Okay. Okay, we wait for about another 5 more people, then we can start.
Okay, for this section, right, you just type your thoughts and reflection. Thereafter, we're going to show you the word cloud of what the census is for the room, okay? Later we will share with you. It doesn't matter, actually. But if you want one word, then it'll be easier, yeah.
Okay, so we have a general sensing of some of the reflections that you guys have. There's a big one that says it's about time. I think that's good. I think just now someone made a comment, right? At least he sees this come out in his lifetime. So that's good, right? Some of us he is young, of course, but some of us are younger, and he's already there before he embarked on a journey in this industry. So that's even better. All right. A long way to go. We definitely agree, because this is just a start. because it is, I think they made it a key point to mention that it is not about regulation, it's about moderation. And before somebody else comes in to moderate us, we moderate ourselves. That's the best, because that's the beauty of the whole thing. All right. Long way to go. Let's see. Eye opener. Okay. Inspiring. Okay. Hopefully it's good. Positive development. Definitely. All right. So thank you for your reflections. So for the next segment, right? Move on to the next one. So we have 4 scenarios over here. So 10.8.5, it means this is clause 10. That means layman's lingo is chapter 10, okay? In Singapore standards, it's called clause 10. So layman's lingo is just chapter 10. So chapter 10 is talking about camping matters. So here specifically, I'm talking about camping and supervision. All right? So we will leave it there for about 30 seconds for you guys to just have a quick glance through and read. Okay, then we specifically are focusing on where the box is, right? The purple box. Focusing about there being sufficient activity leadership and responsible persons to manage large-scale incidents throughout the entire activity, including when indirectly supervising the participant during the night. All right. So some examples are given there for such of the large-scale activities. So the question is, based on whatever you currently have in your organization, right, in your processes, do you have sufficient staff to supervise participants overnight? So the context, you decide the context for yourself, because you know your environment, you know the location, you know the size, you know the number of exits, you know the gates and everything. So just based on your own context, or your own understanding, your own SOPs, do you have sufficient staff to supervise your participants overnight? A quick show of hands, those who feel you have sufficient staff overnight. It's okay, there's no enforcement taking place here, no worries. Free look period. Oh, not all, some, okay, not bad. Okay, so this was the question that is asked, do you have sufficient staff to supervise participants overnight? And added context, this is also found in the same chapter 10 as well, on camping. It says that for general camping activities, which requires only indirect supervision, there should be a maximum of 30 participants for every one supervising member. Okay, so there's some technical word here. What is indirect supervision? So if you look at the definition section, there's direct supervision, indirect supervision, and remote supervision. If I break it down, direct supervision is, he's my participant, I'm the activity leadership. I'm here. Anything happens, response is almost immediate. Indirect will be, he's my participant, maybe I'm outside lecture theatre, maybe I'm outside the other room, maybe I'm at the canteen. But something happened, I'm able to come here, maybe 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. That's for you to contextualize. The last one is remote supervision. He's my participant, I'm somewhere out there. Maybe I'm at Junction 8, having my coffee, thinking about the future of OAE. Then something happened to him, then I have to make my way here, then start at the jam, maybe this and that, etc., so to speak. So the 3 levels of supervision. So over here, going back to the same question, with this added context, for general camping activity, indirect supervision, maximum of 1 leader to 30 participants. So if you have camp for 90 people, right? Overnight you need to have how many staff? 3. So with this added context, now you ask yourself the same question again. Do you have sufficient staff to supervise participants overnight? Anyone got change in answer? Okay, put out your hand at the moment. That means those who were convinced just now, yes, is still yes now, right? Okay, then good. That means this to illustrate that, like, one of the point is not everything in these standards is totally new and alien to us. We are not noobs we are all professional practitioners in one way or another. We know what we are doing. We're just writing it in a way where we have a common lingo. All right? Okay, we can roll on to the next. So this question is chapter 11.5.2. Okay, clause 11.5.2 is under the experiential learning and initiative games. Take some time to read this clause first. We will focus on D, informed of the appropriate places and methods for safe physical contact where there is a need for close physical contact among participants. So here in our very layman lingo, we're talking about gender sensitivity, all right? But just cannot put one word there, right? People confused, right? So put the whole line there, okay? So now the question, are your participants informed of such safe physical contact during activities where close proximity is expected? That means explicitly, we express to the students in very clear terms. Can do this, cannot do this. Can touch her, cannot touch there. Don't say, guys, observe gender sensitivity, full stop. They don't know what is it. Okay? How many of us feel that you have this in your system already? Very clear. The hand like that, not like that. Then I can see. Oh, not bad, not bad. This one got less than just now. Wow. Okay. Okay, thank you. Now we have added context. Because some of us, when we answer that question, right, we may be thinking about a certain activity. That's the context, right? Is it night walk? Is it caving? Is it tunneling? So normally these are the big activities that we think about. But how about these activities? Our entanglements, the spider webs, the rough escapes, the TP shuffle. Inappropriate physical contact may happen here as well. And doesn't need to be deliberate. It could be accidental. But discomfort is discomfort. And it can happen to either gender. So, if I give this example, right? Rough escape, how to tell the fella, don't touch her, don't touch there? You're like, chill, how chill? You put me in this situation, how not to touch? Something as simple as the entanglement. First step, already everybody touch hand like that, across. Then, somehow you want to make it even more challenging, right? One hand is this person, the other hand is another person, totally opposite. Then the fella is like that. Then you say, inappropriate contact. But chill, you asked me to touch what? So we need to ask ourselves, then how? Does that mean that's the end of all these activities? Because cannot touch. Okay, it's for us to think about. Okay? If not, everything also cannot do. That's the risk assessment, right? Risk control, right? Elimination is the most effective. But we don't want to go to that direction. So we need to think, is it about using rope? Is it about using a lanyard, a rope, or an object, if we need to, or tweak the activities in a certain way, still achieve our OA objectives with this risk being reduced, right? Okay, this scenario 3, this is chapter 9, which is on walking, hiking, and navigation. The subtopic is activity and route classification. Take some time to read first. Okay, so here we focus on the provider shall have a process to assess the level of difficulty of all activities they provide. So this is the context about walking, hiking, navigation, right? So the idea is you are designing the program, but you must have, cannot be, whether it is, just now somebody say they have a 2 to 6 years old, right? Cannot be the 6 years old, the 15 years old, the 30 years old, and the 60 years old, all walk through the same path, the same route, and the same everything, and all the assessment risk is at the same level. So the idea is, do you have a process that clearly assesses the difficulty levels of all activities you provide? That means it's not just somebody say that, okay, it's safe, let's go, Jer. It's not like that. And now some of us attended the risk management one, right? The 5x5 or 3x3, 7x7, doesn't matter, but you have a system to assess. And it's clearly, you have a system. And at the end of the system, the net result is, okay, I will show you the difficulty level. This activity is difficulty level number 1, and this person can do it. This activity, difficulty level number 2, and this person can do it. How many of us have it? That system? Not all, Some don't have. So this is something we need to think about. Of course, our SS doesn't prescribe it. This is the exact process that you need to have because it's contextualized. It might be overbearing if we prescribe too much. But the whole idea is, if you don't have, it's time to think about having a system. Right? So added further context to you is, for those of us who say we have a system, the question is the system documented? Because common wisdom, if it's not written, then it is not done. Okay. For those of us who say this document is available, the next question is it circulated to people? Is it read generally by your staff? Importantly, is it understood? Because if you have a document somewhere that has a two-factor authentication to go and access it and need another password some more, then it is not accessible, it is not written in the first place. And only one fella in the organization know. Because the rest of the world will say, don't have. Only the boss say, no lah, have lah, you have what? Because the rest of the people are not exposed to that document in the first place. So for those of us who don't have the system, it's about time to have the system. For those of us who have the system, then you can think about whether it's documented and is the document accessible to the rightful people. Okay. This is the last one of the first segment. This is under camping and it's specifically talking about fire hazards. And we focus on that provider shall ensure shall have a means to extinguish or isolate fires. We're just talking about this only, right? So the question is, in your old systems, do you have the means to extinguish or isolate fires? If you have, put up your hand, please. Again, Oh, not bad, This one got, not bad. Okay, now added context. Is the means that you have suited for your fuel source? Some of us use solid fuels. Some of us use liquid fuel. Some of us use gas. And then some of us now have attended the SCDF courses before. We know different fire extinguisher is for a different class. You take the wrong one, poof, from fire become explosion. So that's the first thing to think about, because we're talking about two things, extinguishing and isolation. And we break it out into two parts. So is it sandpit, sand bucket, water, extinguisher, etc., etc. Some of us have campfires in our program, right? Wow. What is your mechanism to put out the fire that comes up from campfire? Not that fire, accidental fire I'm talking about, one way or another. If you are hoping that nothing else happens, then don't hope so much. Have a provision for extinguishing an accidental fire that may happen. All right? The other, of course, is isolation. So something very close to our heart recently, the River Valley incident. I mean, investigation ongoing, so don't want to double click because lives have been lost there. But one of the things we picked up from the newspaper article was, it is legit, whatever they were doing there was cooking. They are supposed to learn cooking there. But one of the things that was covered is, the license was for cooking at level 1. But the cooking actually took place at level 3. That's why everybody was trying to escape from there. So the thing about isolation, some of us may, not everyone will be, because as part of the Singapore standards, we also know that our outdoor is expanded a bit. Sometimes got wet weather program, right? We cook indoor. And that's when things may start, indoor and fire. Outdoor, of course, you can run away, the place is big. But what happens if it's indoor? Is it blocking the demarcated escape route, the fire in the first place? Or when the fire is there in a room, do they have multiple exit points? In case one door stuck or locked, then the other door is the place where the fire is. How do they go? Or are they cooking near the only exit available? Or are they cooking at the elevated floor? Then to go down is another issue altogether. So these are all questions to think about. And nowadays, maybe at the time, some of us are not all, started, we will only use the fire from scratch. Now got induction cooker. It's a different topic altogether, different animal altogether. So got electrical fire coming out from it. So these are all considerations for us to have. Okay? So that's why it's all contextualized. So that's why here, the SS doesn't prescribe what you need to have in terms of the exact end result. But the SS prescribes what you need as a general idea. Chairs have the means to isolate and extinguish the fire. Whatever is the class and the type of fire you're going to have based on your program. That's linked to your fuel and your cooking style and all. Yep. Any questions so far at this moment? No? Good? Can follow? Okay, good. Then we roll along to the next segment. This one we have more discussion amongst yourself, okay? We can afford that, right? So take some time to digest this whole paragraph first. This is from clause 10.8.3, camping, targeting on supervision. The first line is what we were used to just now. Second one, we are combining two things together. Now talking about cooking. So generally for 30 participants, we have one supervising member. But when it comes to cooking, maximum of 15 participants for every one supervising member when direct supervision is required. And a maximum of 20 participants for every one supervising member when there's indirect supervision. Okay, so you need to define when you need direct, when you need indirect. Next. So now, with all these different numbers, different time got different number, and you have a 3-day 2-night camp, right? How will you plan for the staff and participant ratio across a 3-day 2-night camp? Okay. So there's a lot of gray areas left behind for reasons, and reasons for you to discuss among yourself. So later we can have 1 or 2 person sharing their point of view. Okay. So maybe we'll spend about 3 to 5 minutes discussing among yourself. In this context, answering that question. Yep.
Okay, good. There's a verification. The question is why, when there's a direct supervision, which is tells you there is a riskier event, the ratio is 15. But when it comes to a less riskier event, it's 20, is it?
Indirect. What's our excess? Is less.
Okay, good. Because the consideration is, we talk about numbers later, we talk about your risk assessment of likelihood and severity, okay? So, let's say the three things there, the remote, indirect, and direct. So, we want to use the direct supervision when we feel that the likelihood and severity of something, whatever the thing is happening, is very high. I want to be very possible in my supervision. Now, I go back to my risk assessment again. This has dropped. Whatever the severity of the situation is, whatever the likelihood of it happening has dropped. And so I can take a step further and become indirect supervision. Now it's a drop even further than just sleeping fully. That's a better word. And maybe I even can go remote supervision. So that's the understanding behind. Like a better word, de-escalate from direct to indirect to remote is based on the risk assessment. So that's the first one. Then we come down to numbers. Before it combine together, it's not a case of because I'm being remote, I want to shrink the ratio. If I shrink the ratio, it must be due to the likelihood and severity of the risk, not because for the number of people. Like now I got a lot of people here, but what is the worst case scenario that can happen? Compared to I brief one person here to climb the wall without any rope. What's the worst case scenario? The volume is very little, but I'm definitely not going to do remote supervision whatever. Maybe it might be more than one person being a direct supervision. Whereas in this settings, many people, so it's not an issue.
So if the mark text is creepy, I asked question was which cooking scenario for students if we at in supervision. The best I can think of is an expedition for OES, but as the kids are not sick. Most of the time, the indirect supervision it involves cooking with fire that way. But here's rappers, spreading, brands, yeah, they are indirect, that's fine. So the next sure.
So the answer is good. I mean, as a self-taught, right, reflection, right, clarity is, we do it because there are many ways of cooking nowadays. For induction cooking to air fryer, because you don't need to do anything, just put the fire inside, air fry the butter, air fryer finish. Maybe some of the campsite, right, they'll put steamers over there. It's also called dirty. So in order to determine for us But some with the extra, the full old school, the fire and everything. So with that, we leave it to you to define to say, okay, based on this assessment, I need to be direct. And because you say direct, is why is a bit thin. But some other person can say that, okay, this assessment is indirect, okay, they're able to answer the.
Yeah, just to add on, because of it's also involved in this land standards, so the cooking activity can also be broken down to many parts of activity, right? For example, they all wash the plates versus they are cutting the hot dog or they're opening up many packages, that kind of. So you would need to contextualize the what is a cooking activity in order to determine the ratio and the level of supervision. Only that's. Based on what you chase, could it be that the same cooking activity based on the competency of the student, one might choose an indirect and one might choose to that direct solution?
What am a fair way to take the system of possibility? When you say one means that one participant for the other person.
So the mix for the same group, right? There are two different groups doing the exact same cooking activity, but one group has a higher competency. So you need indirect explanation, whereas the other one you need direct. Would it be interpreted that way?
Actually, it's not about the cooking and the experience performance of ability. Actually, you look further descended, they actually stated that directly to fire. So with fire, immediately you need to have direct experience. Yeah, so it's very clear in your standard. So you will notice that just now as Vivek says, there's actually different stages of booking. So in the different stages, you can at least employ different supervision level. Once we fired, there's a pause immediately says direct supervision. And in that scenario, because it's direct supervision, over to one who was okay. Yeah, I hope that answers.
So before we go to other side questions, right? We go into this main question first. After that, you need time for the it's related. The main question, yeah.
Okay, so over here you say staff to hospital ratio, right? So does the staff includes, for example, teachers? Or it has to be only vendor? And then the other thing is, you are running a student-run co-ed. I have a 16 years old. They are able to run activities, all that kind of stuff. And cooking is one of the activity, right? Simple cooking, whether it's school, solid tour, right? Does my student that add this stuff to consider ratio? Or they are still considered as student?
So the easier question to answer first, the second part, no matter how well you train the student, they remain as students. So you give them a lot of tasks, but they remain as students. They cannot be able to an activity leadership until they become professionally trained, okay, as the person. The other one is the teacher, okay. So if part of your plan is they are part of the leadership and they know that item. We're not talking about cooking, Cooking is more like, and I say this, everybody will cook at home. Yeah, I just say, don't take that advice. So cooking is normal compared to, I say, a technical activity like kayaking or karate. So you cannot bring a teacher into the picture and say you're part of my, we call it planning supervision ratio, because there's a lot of technical activities involved. Whereas for this, inspire is cooking, but don't assume. So long you know this is a parameter, etc., can bring that into the picture. But it must be defined in your SOP that this, you are part of the ratio for this. Okay? So in that, right, we go into the main question. The whole idea is you got different ratios for different periods of time. Example, look at the first line, general camping, sleeping, etc. 30:1. When it comes to cooking, one is 15, and sometimes one is 20. So in that paragraph, you got three ratios. You got a 3-day to night camp. How will you come up with your staff to participant ratio? Maybe one or two people can just from your wherever you are can answer. I mean the mind of post and library passes.
Oh, sorry everyone, just to hijack for a while. I need your help to use the mic to ask questions because we are actually doing a recording. all the questions are asked. But if you were to just verbalize it without a mic, it might not come across as capture. Because at the end of the day, all the session recordings here will be shared. So for everybody, as reference down below as well. Appreciate it. Much.
Anyone? Just shadow, scissor. And
You. I am Media Road in Lala. Hello, I am Farah. I am representing Multimenes currently. I had a conversation with my colleague here about planning for staff participant ratio. I think the closest example we have is when we have our camps in Bukit Batok Adventure Center. So we do have outdoor cooking, which is very common in all camp programs. So what we do is we realize that our supervising member is more than sufficient. So for example, we have 2 groups of 20 participants, but we always have an activity leader on top of that. So there's 3 staff to 40 participants. So we have about 5 buffer. So for now, actually, we are very sick. So I think congratulations, my Miss Manager. I think you're doing very thank you on the outdoor editors. And my Kobo RO somewhere up there.
don't let the HR see the document, they'll cut down member.
Please. Thank you.
Okay, so in the example, right, the existing ratio of 4 staff for 40, or 5 staff, 3 staff to 40 covers all of BC. So in their context, they don't need to adjust everything. One ratio settles everything. Are there others who are banking on the high bound ratio, 1:30? I don't have any more people to bring in, but I need to cook. But what to cook, us cannot cut the ballot into 2 for these 2 people. And how? Any other person that we reply one more inputs?
Yes. For the subject pathway screen. So actually we do have our own residential program. And when it comes to overnight, right, what we do is that we do have a fellow ratio that we plan together as a committee. And then from there, the 4 teachers you have to tag along. And on top of that, we do have a separate team that was on standby. So this individual that was standby who actually have a top in the school, and we can actually up in at anything that needs to be emergency, right? Then we will actually call off for the EAP lah. So in terms of cooking, when we conduct our own camp programs at Toyota LC and all that, we do have our VE teachers, the 4 teachers that will tag along. So even though, let's say for example, cooking activity, we have a class of 20 or even 40, with the group instructors tagging along with our form teachers, then the ratio for us is very comfortable. Yeah, so that's how we actually plan our empower.
Okay, great.
We need to clarify a responsible person's role. Actually, it sounds like the because in the SS it's actually a responsible person, a responsible person. So it sounds like teacher are identified as a responsible person too. There's actually a bit of distinction as the provider. Maybe only.
Thanks, Jim, for that. So, like I mentioned earlier in the example, right? So, if the teachers are involved as part of the ratio, teachers cannot be classified as, okay, normally you chaperone the participant, then since you are here as an adult, I assume that you are part of the ratio. And when something happens, you're supposed to intervene? No, not the teacher, why was supposed to intervene? Then you point to get, then part to get. If there's a process, then what I should mention, then X. Nothing happens, no problem. But when something happens, everybody point, that's not this good. But it is already a plan. That's why we talk about risk assessment, right? And this acknowledged that. Okay, when it comes to this activity, you are the teacher, but when it comes to this activity, I'm including you as part of the activity leadership for this activity. And it's not, it cannot be a case of this teacher say can, that teacher say cannot, this one say can. It will be like that. At a very early phase, documentation is a read. Of course, then people only will say yes to things they are comfortable in, right? So in your case, I'm assuming all this are in layer there, this wickedness.
Not BA.
So when you go into first 4, right, chapter 4 will go in depth about activity leadership. Who can be qualified? So the whole idea is about you must be competent to supervise whatever you're going to supervise. That's about it. Okay, move on to this. So the things to take note, right? Which will you maintain the same ratio throughout or vary it across the various stages? So I mean, we all have different groups of people. Some are permanent staff, some have adjunct staff, some are relying on part-timers, etc. So we have various form of manpower to support our operations. So if you have one number, right, which is 1:15 is the most stringent one. But I cannot say if you got 90, if you got 150 people and everybody afford to employ 10 staff for the 3-day donut camp continuously and pay at that level. If you have, might be easiest for you. Because I really do the ratio every other time, right? But we are going to go by the timing. Cooking, bullshit. With the phase of cooking, I'm going to have 10 staff. It's sustain there. But when it comes to sleeping, I can make do with 5. So I can save the money for 5%, right? But if you want to do that, you must ensure that the cooking happens when the 50 people are available outside the 10 people. So that's why you need to micromanage the timing. So if your cooking hours ends by 7 o'clock, maybe some people are free by the hour, right? The parallelly, we cannot be cooking any further than 7 o'clock because the ratio change already. So this is just not everybody is operating on this model, but it just open up because the access is not just for the big providers out there. You are less issues you may point out. It's also meant for our smaller counterparts as well in terms of operation size.
I was thinking maybe one possible model would be even working on one is for camping, right? When it comes to cooking, I can have 2 stocks for cooking. Send 15 to shower first or pitch care. I do the 15 and the next. So you still can work with one in a way. That's different high.
That's another alternative. You can do it. So long it fits your model of program effectiveness, cost effectiveness and everything, you can go with it. But just we can't. So this as a snapshot, right, tells us that we did assets, we did it in terms of what is the suitable ratio for an activity. And we go back to the idea about the likelihood and severity of the risk factor. Then we determine. And not just about the numbers, it's also about numbers and the type of supervision. Remote, indirect, and direct. So you may need to dive deeper to find out across the board, these 3 levels. And the good thing is, sometimes might be very prescriptive, but the positive side of it is gives you flexibility. So it's no longer about supervision, it's not just I am being here at all times for supervision. I give you 3 levels of supervision already. And that gives us flexibility to manage. And in the example our friend over there mentioned about staff staying indoor, right? So that gives you flexibility for, I call it, indirect supervision. Good. This more to the class portion. So this is talking about evidence and documentation. So slightly different from the previous one, not just about how you do. Okay. So this is another topic about walking, hiking, and navigation in the context of free planning. It tells that providers shall have procedures to reduce the potential of participants becoming separated or lost. Okay, so this is you are going on walking, hiking, navigation. We assess that based on your environment. It could be Merici, it could be Bukit Timah, it could be Pulau Ubin, it could be anywhere. ECN, possible. Kids may still be lost at GC, I'm not sure. So the question is, what documentation would a provider be reasonably be expected to show that they are holding the above laws? And once you go into the document, say what are the particular contents is they expected in those documents. Right? Understand the question? Then you can have a small side talk discussion. Then in about 3 minutes time in share.
Okay, we just nice on time. Anyone from anywhere, of course through the mic. You choose your comfort level. You want to choose the first question or second question or both questions, I leave it to you, okay? So as not to put you in a spot. So the question is for this topic about a procedure to reduce the potential of participant becoming separated or lost. Okay? What kind of documentation can you be expected to provide to show that you have such a process? And what could be some general content available in that document? Anyone?
The rights.
What will be the rest?
The type of activity and then what are the risks involved and what are the implication for that particular risk.
So we can help our friend along. So in this particular topic of potentially participants getting lost. So if it helps, we frame the picture. They are in MacRitchie or Ubin or Bukit Timah, those kind of forest setting, not on PCN, so it's easier to set. So what are some of the reasonable contents that could be inside there in terms of actual measures? Anyone can help? Wow, good friend.
Second part of the things there, I think to reassure students, participants, and teachers is for us to ensure that inside the document, we should that we have emergency checkpoints and everybody is aware. We provide additional safety officers who will be placed at those checkpoints to ensure that any wandering students know where they're supposed to find it.
So there's a lot of golden information there. So got emergency checkpoints already informed to the participants. That's one possible content that could be there. And the other content will be where you place your stuff strategically. If you're allowing them to move more freely, they don't get lost. You discover 1 hour later, but there are some strategic points you're already there. Okay, good. Anyone else? Other pointers? Okay, can. That's nice. Finishing 2:50, right? Okay, good. Now we move along. Don't worry. I don't disturb you guys. Okay, move on to the next one. So the added context that you can think about is all those things that you mentioned, right? Because you go back to the purpose, is to make sure that the students, the likelihood of them getting lost is reduced. So how are you sure that, let's say you go by the example, the extra checkpoints or the stuff being placed strategically will indeed reduce the likelihood of people getting lost? So you need to have a way to validate or verify whatever you put in your SOP.
Some of the context that we also called about as graph was like in today's world, there are more and more vendors or providers using AI, to look for checkpoints, even in the urban setting. So no urban tagging, they do finding some clues that are already existing in the city, right? So all these can be used as actively, and this sentence actually covers that as well. So you need to not touch on just, you can really think about employee remote kind of solutions. Yeah, but it's all about the last phrase there. It is about communication between the people who want to use the service and the people who are providing the service. What is the understanding about how do you go about mitigating the result? So I hope that will give you, there was a like in the auditorium, right, that about AI being used, right? So we do hope that this sentence can actually go 3 years to actually also allow AI to cover as we do activities in our course.
Thanks, Wei Ling, for that. So the whole context is your control measures here must go back and link to the main objective. Reduce the likelihood of the student getting lost. Of course, get lost in urban setting may seem like less risk, but urban setting got a lot more other distractions. There could be traffic. Somebody could be stuck in an RTA. You never know. I mean, I'm not talking about the type of student who deliberately don't want to get found. They take a Grab or whatever and go home. And that one, the less of my concern, okay? Because they are going to go somewhere, they'll do something nonsense, but eventually they'll be safe. I'm talking about those accidentally getting lost, all right? So the important part is whatever we have over here, we need to have a way to verify it, validate it. Some people will do their own, sometimes you use the word tabletop exercises. That's an example. Some people will do ground deployment exercises. They will use stuff as an example. Okay, now you pretend to get lost here and walk here. I see how long I take to find you. That's one. You can employ technology. Technology must work both ways. I mean, the student must know how to use it, and the staff on the other side also must understand the limitation. And when coverage is a concern, that's another topic altogether. So the whole idea is don't rely on just one. There should be multiple layers, because the idea of somebody being lost in a hiking, trekking, or walking situation could be real. Unless you assess that based on your area of operation, confirm won't get lost one. You are convinced with your risk assessment that won't get lost, then okay lah. That is for you to make the decision based on your assessment. Yep. If not, just the last slide over here. All right, we have reached the last part of the detailed discussion. Any questions as of this moment in time? If not, one of the things that we like to highlight again, right? Just now we touched in depth, but all this is in relation to chapters 9, 10, and 11. The land, walking, hiking, the games, and camping. We cannot zoom into these activities in isolation without looking at clause 4. Just now we talked a lot about ratio, supervision, direct, indirect, all right? That's because we micro zoom in into this 9, 10, 11, which is reasonable. But we always zoom out, look into 4. 4 will give you the umbrella, the biggest framework. Once it's there, this will give you added context. Where some things in 9, 10, and 11 are stricter than 4, you follow 9, 10, 11. Where something in 4 is stricter than 9, 10, 11, you follow 4. That's typically how most of the clauses work. All right? If not, this is the Padlet link for you to give your any other clarification, questions, and feedback that we have. Slamat has kindly decided to keep it open until the end of the day. So you can just scan this page with you, keep it with you. As and when any thoughts come up, you can just put it up. Then float it to the council as we need.